I just want to share a bit of a message, especially if you weren't here over this last couple days. For Imagine couldn't be here and that kind of thing. I want to just give you a little just snapshot of some of what we felt God saying. And the theme for Imagine this year was Shine Like the Dawn. But to me, this isn't a word that was just for this 2 days. It's a word I felt in my heart and spirit for our church, to shine like the dawn. It comes from these verses, Psalm 37. We're going to pull those up for a moment. Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and enjoy safe pasture. Take delight in the Lord. Let me hear you say, take delight in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in him. Over and over. Trust, commit. Just, leave it in his hands. Delight in him. And he will do this. He will make your righteous reward shine like the dawn, your vindication like the noonday sun. And I love this phrase, shine like the dawn, because it speaks to a theme that is so common across the scriptures, which is that God's people will shine his light in this world. The church is called the light of the world. We're told that, that in God there is no darkness. He is all light, and his people are to reflect his light. And the thing about dawn is, dawn always comes after what? After? Night. Yeah, somebody like, is it a trick question? Yes, that's right. Dawn, part of the reason dawn is so beautiful is because it takes place. It's the contrast of the light breaking forward in the darkness. It's what makes it like nothing else. And I love this picture in that psalm that is of God's people, that they would be like this absolute shining light that just contrasts against all the blackness or the dark that's around. And even though sometimes it feels like that darkness is winning, or even so sometimes it feels like that night might go on forever, God's people, when they trust in him, and it talks about waiting patiently for him, and when in just a little while, they will shine like the dawn in this world. And that is a word I believe for our church. The more people I talk to, please, I think it is something God is doing in the church. For those who were here across the weekend, it was extraordinary, some of the common themes that came through each speaker, and almost none of them did I give any direction or anything to. And it just was so clear what God was speaking into if you were here. And I'd say if you weren't here and you're part of our church, just to know, I believe this is something God does want to do in this time, when we come out of a season of life across planet Earth that has felt so many ways kind of dark the last couple of years, filled with anxiety and worry and anger and frustration. And when it's dark, you know what? You can't quite see what's ahead. You don't know what's coming. It's all those things. But God wants his people to shine like the dawn, to be this absolute breath of fresh air, to be this like, for people to be able to look and go, I was wandering in the night, like this song that we sing, I was wandering. But then, of course, we know the person they need to meet is Jesus, but Jesus has left us to be the people how people will meet him through us. So that we would have lives that shine like the dawn, that don't blend in to the anxiousness and anger and worry and the darkness that's all around us. Because we blend in, we will not pop, we will not stand out, and the beauty of the dawn will not be seen. And so we are called to be those people who shine like the dawn. I'm praying, believing, and I know there's a whole bunch of crew in our church who are going, yes, no, we believe that next season is not one to kind of fade to black. It is one to shine like the dawn. And so I want to just give a quick snapshot of three things about the dawn. I thought I'll just grab these three, and that'll keep me from doing 12 or 13. Now I'm committed. One of the things I told people, once you feel like God's saying something to you, tell someone. So now I told you three. It will keep me from doing fourth. But just kidding. The first thing I just want you to grab about dawn is the beauty of the dawn. God imagines us to shine because it displays his glory and his beauty. Moses is one of the first places we actually see this whole idea of God's people shining. And in Exodus 34, it says this, when Moses came down from Mount Sinai. There's this famous picture. He comes down from the mountain. He's got these 2 tablets of the covenant law in his hands. He wasn't aware that his face was radiant. Let me hear you say radiant. It was shining. It was shining out. And it was radiant because he had spoken with the Lord. And when Aaron and all the Israelites saw Moses, his face was radiant, shining, and they were afraid to come near him. But Moses called to them. So Aaron and all leaders of the community, they came back to him. He spoke to them. And then he gave them all the commands. And here's the extraordinary thing. It's this snapshot here of Moses, and he goes, and he's in the presence of God. And out of that time in the presence of God, his face is radiant. It is shining. It is not like the other people. And Moses is this glimpse of how God's people are called to reflect his glory, to reflect his light. When Jesus is transfigured on the Mount of Olives, and Peter and James and John see Jesus up on that mountain, it says, I think we got the verse there, Matthew. Don't make it like a pop quiz for me. Just it's like mean. I think they do that just to be like, look, he can't remember. But anyway, is Ryan back there? Just kidding. After 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John, and the brother James, and he led them up the high mountain. And there Jesus was transfigured, transformed before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as the light. We're told this picture is so beautiful and glorious. They're like, they don't even know what to say, what to do. But it reminds us that the picture of this radiance, the dawn is a beautiful thing. But what we understand is the dawn, it does not start with us. We are not the light. We are to reflect the light. Jesus shines like the dawn. He is the source of the light. Moses, he did not in and of himself, create that light. He spent time in the presence of God. That's how we shine. We go to the source of the light. In 2 Corinthians 3:18. 2 Corinthians 3:18. Do we have that one? Yeah, look at that. Sorry, I'm just sinning. Anyway, it's good to confess. And when God, I love how he says this in the Message version. When God is personally present, a living spirit, all that old constricting legislation is recognized. The old law, what Moses even had, great though it was, it's now obsolete, and we're free of it, all of us. There's nothing between us and God now. Our face is shining with the brightness of his face. And so we are now transfigured. We are transformed to become much more like the Messiah, like Jesus. Our lives gradually becoming brighter and more beautiful as God enters our lives and we become like him. This is the second thing about the dawn. The dawn is beautiful, and when our lives shine with God's goodness, it shines like the dawn in this world. In a dark world that is full of fretting and anxiousness and worry and anger and fear and all those things kind of wrapped up and chewing on, it shines like the dawn when you have a person who is full of light and peace and love and joy. It's beautiful. And this tells us in 2 Corinthians, here is one of those snapshots over and over throughout the scriptures, but here's a snapshot of how this is what I'm going to call the pathway to the dawn. The pathway to the dawn. How do we become those who shine like the dawn? We become those who more and more welcome the presence of God in our lives. Bring that verse back up just again. Watch a couple of these phrases. I love how he brings it out. As our lives, when there's nothing between us, we don't have veils, we don't have secrets, we're not hiding ourselves from God. We're stepping into the presence of God. And then, as he enters our lives, we become more and more like him. The NIV version of this talks about as we contemplate him, as we sit and gaze on him, that we are transformed with ever-increasing glory. The pathway to shining like the dawn, there's no shortcut to it. The pathway to shining like the dawn, the way we become those kinds of people and those kinds of churches, and the way this happens is as we spend time in the presence of God. There's no shortcut. There's no kind of do this and this. It all just begins by being people who spend time in his presence. You know, I love what, in one of my favorite books, The Pursuit of God, Tozer says this: if we would find God amid all the religious externals, then we must first determine, he's saying, you know, there's so much stuff that we sometimes try and do, so much stuff we think will make it all kind of happen, and we can put all these layers and complexity to it, but he says, no, if we're actually going to find God, then we must first determine. Let me say determine. We must just determine to find him. It all starts with this just, in all the great spiritual fathers, you read through all the great writings of those who pressed into the presence of God, almost all of them will say it starts with a pure intention to pursue God. You know, what do we do after? How do we get started? Do you know what? If you're going, how do I become a person who shines light? It all starts with just saying, here I am, Jesus. I want to pursue you. And Dean, what should I do? And what's step 2 and 3 and 4? Just don't worry about the and. Just determine in your heart. I want to be a person who presses into the presence of God. You know, he says, the second part is, he says, we must first determine to find him. So many people never find him because they actually just never determined. In a world with so many choices and options, we never thought maybe the one thing I'll choose is to find him. And then he says, and just to proceed in the way of simplicity. Then to just start to go toward him. You know, Psalm 37, when it talks about shining like the dawn, it talks about how we have to become people who delight ourselves in him. We just say, this I will start to pursue. This I will go after. I will delight in it. It will be good. There are so many things that we could pursue and chase, and sometimes we forget to just determine, no, actually the greatest of things I could pursue is his presence. I always remember I think it was about 17, because Levi was about 7 years old. We were on a trip coming back, and we stopped at Disneyland. How many people know Disneyland's full of amazing experiences you can have? And we're walking around Disneyland. We spent all kinds of money and energy to get ourselves there. He's about 7, and he has one thing for some reason on his mind. And it's, what can I buy at the you know, what do you call that? The gift shop. And if you've ever been to Disneyland, you know it's not a gift shop. It's a multitude of gift shops. In that house are many rooms of gift shops. And as his parents, we kept going. Do you realize all the extraordinary experiences you could have? Do you see all these rides? Do you see all there's like just, you're walking, you're surrounded by, you know, this crazy, just cool stuff everywhere. But all he could think about was, what toy will I get? And as a parent, we literally said, you're going to go sit in the car while we go through the lines, and we enjoy it. So that was a great idea. No, just kidding. We didn't have a car. We were there at Uber or something. But anyway, you know, have you ever with a child just been like, do you not see there's all this other stuff you could determine to enjoy? And life is like this. It throws so many different toys and goodies and different things that we could go for, and all the time sometimes never realizing that they're actually detours from the real deal. There's so much more. But we have to become people who say, here's what I will set my heart on. And I will say, God, I want to be a person who determines to press into your presence. I'm going to delight myself in you. And as we do that, we become transformed. As we do that, as we gaze, as we spend time in his presence, we start to become transformed in ever-increasing light. That is the pathway. It's determining, and it's not complex. We can learn from one another. We learn from history, from believers who've gone before us. We learn by watching Jesus' life and saying, how did he press in it? All those things. But we cannot overcomplicate it. If we never set out to do it, it will just never happen. Jesus says, you have not because you ask not. Did we ever determine in our lives, I'm going to press into God? That's the pathway. And then the great challenge with Dawn, this is the last one of the 3. The great challenge with Dawn, and I feel badly saying that because there's no challenges with you, Dawn Turner. No challenges. How many people know Dawn shines wherever she is? I mean, we so appreciate that. It's the veil, I know, because you're shining. Anyway, but hiding, it's good. A little biblical humor is always fun, isn't it? Anyway. The last of the 3 is the cost of the dawn. we sometimes miss it. It's beautiful. We sometimes miss it because we never determined to pursue God, to get into the light, to let his light so transform us. That's the pathway. But then there is, and this is helpful, there is a certain cost involved. Grace is free. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, one of our saints from the past, wrote in the 30s and 40s, was ultimately a martyr for Christ. He wrote an incredible book called The Cost of Discipleship. And sometimes it's true, and we focus on, because grace is free. New life is free. But to be a disciple of Jesus, there is a certain cost. Jesus says over and over, have you counted the cost of being my disciple? And that cost is to realize, it will not necessarily be always an easy road or an easy journey. But each one of us has to ask ourselves at some point, is it worth the cost? And I will tell you, it is worth the cost to press into the presence of God. It is worth the cost of saying, Jesus, I want to be not just someone who knows you and is in those crowds, but I want to be your disciple. It will not always be easy, but it is worth the cost. It is worth, how many people saw the dawn this morning? We got a few in the house. A couple people saw it and sent me this photo. Check out this photo. Look at this. That is our own Michelle Conquiche, Misty Fraser, up there. This is dawn over Bells Rapids today. Now, I was extraordinarily impressed with this. I think we got a little video. You can just see it. Just look at the beauty. Look at how extraordinary and incredible. There's nothing like the dawn, is there? It is just beautiful. I will say I thoroughly missed dawn this morning. I didn't miss it by a little bit. It was wide, bright, all those things. When I had an alarm set, an early alarm, because I thought I want to, I need to get up and prepare and do those things. Normally I would be up very early on. So I set an alarm, and then the alarm went off, and I said, oh, no, you don't. What do you think you got? Ha! I pushed this button. You're out of here, I snoozed it. And I snoozed again. And I don't want to tell you how many times. That's not the point, but it was a lot of times. And I finally got up, and the dawn was well and truly behind us. I thought, and here's what I did as well. I went, do you know what, Dean? It will be better for the people if you rest. Because your brain is fried right now. You should just lay here, Dean. You should just lay here. And I talked to myself, this is no joke, and you can determine whether it was a good choice later, okay? You can. But there was something beautiful. I had something I want. How many people know the reason most of the time we miss it on? It takes work and effort. I was like, they were here last night. How did you go, I am going to get up. I'm going to be at Bells Rapids. I'm going to hike it. I'm going to walk it. But y'all got something I didn't get today. That cost, was it worth it? Absolutely. It's beautiful. It's extraordinary. And I just say all this to say the thing about the dawn, it's always on the other side of night. The thing about the dawn, it's extraordinary. It's beautiful. The thing about the dawn, it's easy to know how to get there even. But will we pay the cost to say, wow, I'm willing, in this case, to rise early and take the effort and to go there. God says, draw near to me and I'll draw near to you. I'm going to draw near. There is effort that we put into pursuing the presence of God. We aren't earning the presence of God. We aren't earning the favor of God. That's what's free and freely given. But to pursue his presence. We talk as a church about being a people who passionately pursue his presence. The word passion comes from this word that means suffer. I'm willing to put in the effort. Say, I'm going to pursue the presence of God. But as we do it, our lives shine like the dawn. Now, I'm going to invite you to stand. We are going to respond with just one last song of celebration. Because what I believe is genuinely God is calling to his people, and we heard this in ways far more eloquent, beautiful, and clear and true than I could possibly articulate. If you were here over the weekend, or if you want to catch some of those sessions, you know, you can get them, you can order them online through the same links, all that kind of thing. But we are at a moment where God is inviting his people to, in a fresh way, I think, step into a new season. To be those people who shine like the dawn in this world. And I just want to bring that word of encouragement today. To just say, if that is something you say, yes, I want to determine in my heart. That's who I want to be. Know all the steps. Don't worry about steps 2, 3, 4, but I will determine it. And I will be someone who's humble enough to one of the beautiful things about Moses, always said he was the most humble man alive. And then it's always pointed out he seemed to have written that himself. But anyway. One of the beautiful things about Moses, he's so humble. He was just willing to spend time in God's presence. And you know, I was reading one writer said, you know, in some ways, you know, covering it almost like this further act of just humbleness, like I'm not going to show off, or just the willingness to be people who just humbly say, I will sit, I will wait on you, Lord. I'll pursue your presence. I will learn from others and journey with others, but I will wait on you, Lord. I'll be still. I'll delight in you. So I want to invite you maybe just to close your eyes for a moment and listen to what the Spirit of God would say to you. You're watching online, just close your eyes for a moment. If you're a person of prayer, maybe just open your hands the way of saying, yep, right here, I'm here, Lord. I'm waiting on you. I want to be still. And I want to invite you just to hear the gentle, loving, beckoning voice of your Savior who says, come. Come. Come to me, all you who are weary, and I'll give you rest for your soul. Remain in me, abide in me, and I will remain in you. Contemplate his face. The one who says, come, just contemplate my face. Just spend time reflecting on me. And you will be transformed in ever-increasing likeness into his likeness. We will reflect him more and more. The one who says, commit your way to me. Trust me. Delight in me. And your reward may not get every toy that you ever wanted in this world, but you will shine like the dawn. You will shine like the dawn. And Heavenly Father, I pray that we as your people, as we stand here with open hands, recognizing we have nothing, it's all from you. We ask that your Spirit would fall upon us in such a fresh way. The wind of your Holy Spirit blow in such a fresh way. Let fresh tongues of fire fall on our lives in such a way that we be those people who shine like the dawn in this world.